Hey, how are you?
Good. Well, let me look at these earrings. This is very cool. Yeah, everything nice. Are they heavy now? At the end of the day, it's just heavy. So just weigh nothing. Thank you for the wonderful party last night. That was great. Yeah, it was great. And you're doing this as a national press conference. Yeah. Are you saving this for the delegation or? I think it's good. Can I have you? Can I see?
Yeah.
How are you? Yeah, yes. Good punch. Hi, how are you? Happy. Hi, how are you? Good to meet you. Are you going to the? Are you going to the dinner? No. Yes. Say hi to my boss. Oh, you know what? I got an invitation to something really cool. Your AFP, Saul Frontier is doing this premiere of the AFP movie. That's cool. Yeah. Yeah. Are you going to be there? Oh, awesome. I'm so amazed that they're doing it. Oh, yeah. I'm assuming I'll see her really standing here. They're there. Do you guys have a free card? Yeah. We have a free card. It's at the Hilton. It's like in the. So once you're in, you just go to the free party and then you mingle there. Okay. Like our parties. It's also like the first thing that you get to, so you just stop there and catch all the basic overwhelmed. Gotta keep it organized. People try to cover this. We do. So we used to, in the old days, before budget cuts. Oh. Oh, you guys are double teaming there. Dude.
How are you?
To read that much faster. Yeah, but in the old days before all the budget cuts, they used to do, which is the best part, was a brunch afterwards, very boozy with lots of champagne. And so that was brunch afterwards, a brunch the next day. So people had a few hours to get back from work. But I think about that. Saturday. Do you want to do this in the Wi-Fi password or no?
Okay, microphone check. 1, 2, 3. Microphone check. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Let me know when you're good. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Microphone check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. 1, 2, 3. Keep going. You want to check that one? Are you good? What? A little rap? Don't ask me to do any rap.
Bring it, yeah.
I have no rap. Not a rap fan. Is this good? 1, 2, 1, 2. That's good? 1, 2? Sure. 1, 2, 1, 2. Microphone check. Welcome to the meeting. Hope you guys had a good lunch. Yep, good. Okay.
Smart move.
With the mic. So the paper we distributed is a press release that we issued this morning. That is, we put it on the press corner, the ones that are members of our WhatsApp group press corner where we publish updates. You find the link there. If you are not a member of the group, let us know. We can add you when you're forward to the press release. It's fully online, and normally with the QR code that you have on the sheet, you should be able to access it online as well. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Mr. Commissioner. It's a great honor today to have with us Commissioner Sefcovic in town in Washington. Commissioner Sefcovic, as you know, is a EU Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security. He's joining us after his signature this morning at the Department of State on the Memorandum of Understanding on the Strategic Partnership on Critical Minerals. And we will start the briefing with introductory remarks and then move over to your questions. I would like to ask you to focus on the portfolio of Commissioner Sefcovic that I just stated. We have limited time for questions, so we want to address all that you have, so let's please stay on this topic. And without further ado, Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'm very glad to be back in Washington with so much happening around the world. I think it was really the right moment to be here in person. And I would say, despite the fact that with all my partners, we are in constant contact. I'm here especially to jumpstart the EU-US strategic partnership on critical minerals. As it was already highlighted this morning, I had the pleasure of signing a memorandum of understanding with Secretary Marco Rubio. This MOU formalizes our partnership across entire value chain, from exploration and extraction to processing, refining, recycling and recovery. It also deepens cooperation on innovation, investments, geological mapping and both supply and demand side solution. Shortly I will meet Ambassador Jameson Greer to conclude an action plan for critical mineral supply chain resilience, which paves the way towards a possible plurilateral trade initiative with like-minded partners. And we see it as a possibility which could include tools such as border-adjusted price floors, standard-based markets, price gap subsidies, and offtake agreements. We will also focus on common standards for mining, processing, and recycling, on promoting investments, on joint research and innovation, as well as on stockpiling strategies and on mechanisms for rapid response to supply disruption. So I would say that the direction is clear, and now, as we concluded in all the meetings we had in the Washington, D.C., the real test, I'm talking about execution, by turning shared ambition into concrete high-impact projects would start. And this is clearly what will define our success. Critical minerals, as you know, are at the core of every industry shaping the future. So with Secretary Howard Lutnick, we discussed the practical way forward. First, to map the tools we have already at our disposal to support the project. Second, to identify how best to deploy those tools, ideally together, for instance, through co-investing for greater impact. And all in all, this would be tangible proof that we are also clearly delivering on the last year's EU-US agreement, which I have always seen as a launchpad for positive cooperation going forward. In the same spirit, we discussed steel, as the shape and global standing of the steel sector is central to our overall industrial strength. I updated U.S. administration on the latest EU measure to defend our industry from global overcapacity, now reaching critical levels and projected to hit 721 million tons already next year, which is, just for your information, more than 5 times the EU's annual steel consumption. As of July, we will apply 47% cut in tariff-free imports alongside a 50% tariff on volumes exceeding the newly established quotas. And in addition, we will apply melt and pour principle to define the origin of steel and avoid circumvention. As a next step, we want to launch work with the US on steel ring fencing, aligning our approaches towards the third countries, and with Secretary Lutnick we agreed to accelerate this work at technical level. I also welcome that immediately after our meeting the teams began detailed technical discussion on steel derivatives. While the latest US decision has improved the situation for several sectors, some issues remain, and I appreciate the administration genuine engagement in resolving them. More broadly, across all my meetings with the administration on Capitol Hill, I heard a genuine interest in implementing the EU-US deal and in cooperating further to strengthen both our economies. I would like to underscore that the European Union is doing its part. I highlighted particularly $250 billion in energy purchases, as well as nearly $290 billion in EU investments in the US just in the last years, and both are very impressive figures, and it was very much appreciated by my US counterparts. With Secretary Bessent, we discussed our cooperation on economic security and in particular ways to jointly strengthen our supply chains and reduce existing external dependencies. And as you're probably aware, I'm now looking forward to my discussions with Ambassador Greer so that we can continue advancing, whether in leaps or steps, but always moving forward our mutual cooperation. Thank you. Thank you very much for that question. Of course, this would be one of the issues which we are going to discuss with Ambassador Greer, and we heard about this intention before. What is our European position in these regards is that we are ready to cooperate and engage with our American partners. We have nothing to hide. I mean, if it comes to overcapacity, if it comes to the slave labor, I think that we have very similar situation as in the US, and as you know, we have the highest labor standards in the world. So we are ready to discuss, to engage, and what is very important is that I was reassured by Ambassador Greer, but I have to say by all my interlocutors that the deal is a deal from the both sides, and therefore for us a terrible deal, and all the terms and conditions agreed there are absolutely fundamental for being implemented and fulfilled.
I would ask you to speak up when asking questions so everybody can hear it, and please don't forget to introduce yourself.
So I'm Beyi from AFP News Agency. I just wanted to follow up on your remarks about these steel negotiations
Yes.
and discussions. The EU wants to see tariffs reduced further after the US's most recent actions. And I was wondering, what was your sense about whether Washington is willing to look into further reductions? Like, do you think they will do it? And if so, how soon could that happen?
Thank you very much for that question. I mean, steel was, of course, at the core of our discussions since we started this very intense interaction with the U.S. administration. And I think first conclusion, which is absolutely valid until now, is that we are not each other's problems. I mean, our trade between two of us is rather small, and it's very much focused on the specialized steels which we both need. But what we are faced with is huge overcapacity. I was just referring to 720 million of tons of global overcapacity which are flooding the market, which is destroying the industry, in our case in Europe, but I believe that our American partners have the same experience here. And therefore, after, I would say, many years or working together in different formats like Global Alliance against overcapacities or similar format, it simply didn't bring the results. And speaking for Europeans, we knew that if we wouldn't adopt the safeguard measure, which would be implemented in the course of this summer, that our industry would be in serious danger. So we had to act, and we decided to do it in the full compatibility with WTO principles, and we are cutting down the imports by 47% into European market, and we are putting this out of quota tariffs on the level of 50%. Why I'm mentioning these figures? Because this very much correspond to the thrust of the measures the U.S. has adopted. And therefore, I suggested to the Secretary Latting, let's go back to the idea we discussed the last year, how to create the ring around our both steel sectors, so we can trade on very favorable terms, and we can build, I would say, the defensive mechanism against subsidized steel or against global overcapacities. And I'm very glad that we restarted this conversation. We had the first a technical meeting already yesterday in that regard. And to answer your second question, what is of course very important for European Union is to work further on the issue of steel derivatives. As you know, this was the measure which was adopted after Turnberry deal. I'm glad that we have seen quite serious simplification of the measure from the US side. There was quite a few products which have been delisted from the list of steel derivatives, but we still have some issues with the remaining products which are listed, and this is what we discussed with Secretary Latnik. We are going to go in a greater detail with Ambassador Greer. We also presented our remarks and our analysis in a written form, and of course it would be very important to have a positive traction on this because, for example, the machinery sector very often exporting specialized machines which are needed for the U.S. reindustrialization. It's very difficult to export them here because sometimes a lack of clarity which rules apply, and also because the higher costs. So I'm glad that we re-engage, and I hope that we will have also positive traction on this discussion. Concerning the timeline, it's difficult to tell you when because these are very technical questions, but we're talking about it, and at least my feeling was that we are going in a positive direction.
I am Amy Williams of the Financial Times. China has already expressed some dissatisfaction at the fledgling plurilateral critical minerals deal. I wondered if you had any concerns that China would take retaliatory measures against the European Union if that deal develops.
I think I would not speculate on these issues. The fact is that we developed huge dependencies in certain critical minerals, also critical technologies, and therefore I think it's only natural that for the sake of economic security we want to diversify the portfolio of suppliers, of be it critical minerals or sensitive technology. So this is our approach in that regard, and that was also what led to, I would say, new approach concerning economic security in the European Union. I'm actually the first commissioner who got it officially in the title and portfolio because it became very, very pressing, and we adopted the first doctrine on critical minerals in this regard. So for us, it's really the matter of economic security. It's a matter of overcoming the dependencies, and all this is based on also recent experience, because we know how dependencies could be expensive, and we paid a huge price tag for being dependent on the sources of our fossil fuels, and we simply want to learn from that experience and have much more diversified portfolio of suppliers.
Question here in the back.
Thanks. Josh Book with AP. How would you say your relationship with U.S. trade officials has changed over the past year since the Liberation Day tariffs were announced roughly April of 2025?
I think that, of course, when we started, it was pretty intense, as you can imagine. But I think that we clearly feel from both sides that we understand each other much better. I think I have very good personal and professional relations with all my interlocutors. Of course, Secretary Latnik, Ambassador Greer. But if it comes to export control sanctions regime, we have always very, very detailed discussion also with the Secretary of Treasury, and I'm very glad that the State Department stepped in so clearly in creating the opportunities that we can use jointly. I would say our diplomatic muscle, the fact that 30 trillion US and 20 trillion EU economy can create enormous pull factor if it comes to pursuing certain goals in the field of economic security, and we can bring different instruments to support the projects in the field of critical minerals, because, as you know, this requires patient capital. I mean, from the moment you identify the products you want to extract until you refine it, sometimes you need 7 to 10 years, and you need a lot of money. So I would say the two biggest economies on this planet can have much better chance to do it fast, to do it efficiently, and I appreciate that also State Department is involved in this regard. So I would say they are very professional, very active, and that we manage to kind of focus on the problems and do our utmost to resolve them.
Andrea Ashelon with Reuters, thank you. I want to ask you a couple of details on the action plan and sort of a timeline for, these are some ambitious things that you're going to be discussing. Standards are always hard to agree on. And then secondly, I wanted to ask you about, we're just coming off the heels of the IMF World Bank meetings and G20 meetings, where fertilizer and energy security were big topics, and you've spoken now about economic security. Are you, were you able to discuss any of the choke points that are happening now with global markets that are so complicated for, countries that import energy? Did that come up at all in your discussions?
Yeah. If it comes to the details of MOU and the action plan, I believe that MOU is already a public document, and action plan very soon will be, because we just want to go through it and endorse it with Ambassador Greer. But all the elements I mentioned in my introductory remarks are clearly valid. What I would focus on is that we have different tools in US, in the EU. We have different funds, different policy instruments in the European Union. We have European Investment Bank. We have promotional banks of our member states, and we have a common priority. So I think that what my suggestion also with the meeting with Secretary Rubio and Bessent was, let's look at a couple of pilot projects where we would simply learn in practical way how we can use this instrument, how we can make it happen. Just to have very precise timeline, to have a teams dedicated to that, to have kind of political attention to this project, so we would learn how to use these mechanisms. And clearly what is quite innovative, which was not tested before, this is this price floor mechanism or corridor pricing, where we simply have to make sure that if this patient capital arrives, that you kind of guarantee to the project promoters that despite the price fluctuation, there will be always business case for this project through the form of, I would say, these price floors, off-take agreements, or equity investment, which was, let's say, my experience when I was talking to Australian partners about a couple of very concrete projects. And if you do it together, then of course you have much stronger financial and political means to achieve that. If it comes to fertilizers, this was actually the topic which was discussed with Secretary Bessent. Of course, we know how important this issue is for our farmers, definitely in Europe, but I understand also in the States. But we discussed also the alarming situation in Africa, where they, proportionally to the production, because of the different levels of efficiency, are using even more fertilizers. And one of the ideas was how can we cooperate to make sure that not only farmers in Europe and US, but also in the third countries, which are very much dependent on fertilizers for the agriculture production, how we can help there. Of course, this is something which would need to be explored in greater detail, but it's on both of our radar screens, and we are ready to cooperate in that regard as well.
Could you, just on the pilot projects, how soon could we see them, and would they be more in the area of production, and could they involve third countries, for instance, Ukraine, where there are supplies?
I think that we have, what's happening in Europe is that we had our first call for proposals last year. So from the top of my head, I believe that it was more than 100 projects selected as a project of the European priority, or they've been put on the European priority list. I believe that the United States have the similar list. So my suggestion would be that we will ask our teams what are the first projects we are going to put on the table and try to do together. And usually the questions are the same from my discussions with the natural resources of Australia. Madam King, I would recall that we've been looking at 4 different projects, and it's always offtake, price floor, equity investments, patient capital. These are the 4 things which I would say, when you come to nitty-gritty, you need to have a good answers for. And I believe that therefore with my colleagues, with Vice President Sejourné or Commissioner Sikela, we've been working together to have concrete projects on the table and learn by doing how to do it in the most efficient way. So I believe that for sure that will be not something we'll do the next year. I mean, we want to come back to sit with the teams and suggest a couple of projects very, very quickly.
We have time for 1 or 2 more questions. We'll go to the back there. Kevin.
Hi, Gavin Bate with the Wall Street Journal. I wanted to follow up on the AP's question earlier, sir. You said that the relationship with the U.S. has changed. It seems a lot more cooperative and less confrontational than, say, this time last year. I wonder if you can expand a little bit and say why the relationship has changed. Does it have anything to do with China and the U.S. realizing that they will need their allies to confront China's stranglehold on rare earths, their overcapacity? Has the China issue brought you together, or are there other things as well?
I think it's, of course, you will have to ask my American counterparts the question from their perspective, because I can tell you that European perspective and my attitude to all these negotiations always was that we see United States as our most important ally. And I was explaining to all my counterparts that some of the dependencies developed over the last 10, 20 years been our fault, because we probably believed too early and too much on hyperglobalization, just-in-time, supply mechanisms, and I would say this approach to cutting the costs. And I think we paid both by parts of our industry simply leaving, in our case, Europe. But if it comes to the EU-US, for us, this was like very often deliberate decisions that we've been building supply chains on transatlantic basis. So you have a lot of companies which are producing the machines just for the US. And you have a lot of US companies which been like specializing for the EU as a main customer. So therefore, when I was talking yesterday to the senators and congressmen, I always recall and remind the fact that we are by far the biggest trading partner, $1.7 trillion every year, that we are the major export destination for U.S. companies. I mean, they do not have bigger trading partner, bigger export destination than us, and for us it's the same. So we are exporting 20% of our exports go to the United States, and we've been working together on standards, on economic security parameters, or on the cooperation even in such a sensitive areas like military components, satellites, space exploration, and so on and so forth. So it's a relationship on different level, because it was built like that over the last decade, because we see U.S. as a closest ally, and that continues. And therefore, I think that we also wanted to show that once we make a deal, we should respect the deal, and we are delivering on the joint statement. I'm glad to say from the both sides, and if something is not working out as we both hope, we are talking to each other and appreciate that, because this EU-US joint statement from Tenbury created that platform where we can raise these issues. So, as you heard, I mean, we would like to see more progress on derivatives. So we are talking about it. We want to resolve it. And I think in this very turbulent world, I mean, it's good to have a reliable partner with whom you've been working for many decades. And at least that was the attitude I clearly felt from all my interlocutors. And as you could have seen, I have pretty busy 3 days here.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm afraid we are out of time. Do we still have time for one more question? Maybe one more question. We'll take European media this time. Oscar, short, please.
Oscar Brzezinski, Polish Press Agency. Did you talk with Secretary Besant about why the U.S. suspended the sanctions on Russian oil? And if I may, another one, quick one. Do you have any comment on Poland has today announced that it will file a complaint at the European Union Court regarding the Mercosur deal? Do you have a comment?
Okay. I think that if it comes to sanction, yes, I raised this question, and I think that I understand that that was the measure which was taken as an immediate reaction to the situation in Hormuz. I would still refer you for the detailed answers to the Secretary of Treasury, because I wouldn't speak on his behalf, but I think my clear understanding was that this will not be repeated in the future, and it was also done because several countries with the lower incomes have been in an extremely difficult situation. So and this is how we extended the discussion to the fertilizers, for example, in African countries. And if it comes to the Mercosur agreement, what I would like to say here is that of course every country has a right to go to the European Court of Justice, and I know that also European Parliament took the decision. Again, we of course would respect the European Court of Justice ruling, but I just would like to recall, as I did in numerous interactions we had with our member states and with the European Parliament, that European Court of Justice already ruled on similar questions before, so we have no doubt what would be the answer. And why we proceeded with the provisional application was because we see enormous potential for opening new market access also for the Polish industries and Polish farmers. And I am convinced, because I know this deal in a greater detail, that Paul, at the time of signing, there have been the similar worries expressed, what kind of impact it would have on agriculture, what would be, the overall impact on European economy. And now, I think it's 7 or 8 years later, they're super happy about that agreement. I just visited Canada a month ago. Our trade grew by 60%. None of the worries materialized. And in this turbulent world, we are very happy to have partners like Canada, to have market access to the market, and it applies in both ways. On top of it, which is probably last thing I should add, is that if it comes to Mercosur agreement, we went to unprecedented length with our safeguards to build additional handbrakes that if, let's say, in sensitive commodities, the exports would suddenly increase beyond the levels which are very strictly targeted, that we can pull the handbrake. So there is really no question that this would have negative impact. And I spend a lot of time with the farmers, including the farmers from Poland. And I just simply believe that by applying this agreement, we will see the practical positive impact it has on the economies in European Union and economies in Mercosur countries.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think with that, we need to conclude today's
So I have to run to the USD.
Ryan, good luck with your meeting. Safe travels. For everybody else, we have distributed the press release. If you did not have a copy and you want to have one, my colleague Stefan has the copy. The QR code that leads you to the website where you have links to the documents that were adopted.
Thank you very much.
for
Thank you.
coming.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Nice day.
Thank you.
Can we stay for just a few minutes? Thank you. Yeah, hey.
I was just looking at the screen. Because I
Yeah, so you're getting the headlines, like you're watching the headlines, you're watching the making of the sausage. I know, it's like for cover. I was kind of slow.